Oh, boy, the Friday before a win and you're in scenario for the Green Bay Packers for the second straight year. I think I dubbed it the second annual win and you're in game for the Packers the other day. It is Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf with you from the Everlight Solar Studio, downtown Madison. Good to be with you on this Friday. Lots to get into when it comes to Bears-Packers coming up on Sunday. I'm still a little nervy, as the kids say. Still a little nervy about what's going to happen on Sunday at Lambeau Field. Excited to chat with Courtney Cronin, ESPN Bears reporter. You hear on ESPN Radio. Super excited to catch up with her and talk all things Bears-Packers with her. What's up, Hunter? How are you? Hunter Vaughn back. Producer Tiny Hands back with me for the first time in the new year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I'm good. It feels like it's been forever since we've done a show.
Well, I did a show 2 days ago. You just weren't a part of it.
Well, I said we.
It's been 9 days.
Yeah,
since you looked
it's been
at
a long time.
Turned your head to the side and said you're crazy.
That song's going to be stuck in my head now the rest of the day, and I hate you.
Stuck in my head as well, so I hate me as well. It is Mr. Irrelevant. All right, let's dive in. Win and you're in. We talked about it a lot on Wednesday, but if you missed that, or if you're just joining us on the live stream, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or on the podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast, I am nervous. There's no other way of spinning it, right? I think back to a year ago when the Packers were in a similar and really the same situation against the Detroit Lions. That one was a little bit different. It felt bigger because you knew it may be the end of the Aaron Rodgers era. You knew that could be Aaron Rodgers and was Aaron Rodgers' last game in Lambeau Field. It was Sunday Night Football. There were ways that the day could have gone where it could have made it a win and you're in game for the Lions. Ultimately, it didn't fall that way, and they were eliminated by the time of kickoff. It felt bigger last year, but the stakes remain high this year for the Green Bay Packers. It's the same idea. You win, you're the 7th seed or the 6th seed in the NFC, depending on how some things play out this weekend. Jordan Love has been terrific the last 7 or 8 weeks. He's been terrific. Can he shine in the big moment is the big question this week. Can he shine when the lights are the brightest? He has so far this year. Think about the nationally televised games, of course, that's post, like the Monday Night Football Raiders game. But you think about Thanksgiving, national spotlight. Jordan Love is awesome. He's a surgeon against the Lions defense. Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs with Taylor Swift in attendance. Hunter's favorite human being in the entire world was in attendance. And he was terrific. You think about last week, Sunday Night Football against the Vikings. Hunter, I bet you don't know what word I'm going to use to describe Jordan Love. He was what?
Good.
Terrific. He was terrific against the Minnesota Vikings on New Year's Eve on Sunday Night Football. So can he be terrific with Jim Nantz and Tony Romo on the call this Sunday is the big question. Besides that, though, is what's Justin Fields going to do? He's been really good, too. I wouldn't go as far to say terrific, but he's been really good over the course of the last couple of weeks for the Chicago Bears. And what I'm so fascinated to talk with Courtney Cronin about is what do you do if you're the Chicago Bears? You have the number 1 overall pick. Do you go get Caleb Williams, who's viewed as a huge prospect, who's viewed as one of the top prospects in the last several years? Or do you stick with Justin Fields? Can Justin Fields save his job as the Chicago Bears quarterback this weekend? What if he comes to Lambeau and wins? It's really hard to move off of that when you've got that fresh in the brain for the next couple months leading up to the NFL draft. Justin Fields is a pretty good quarterback. I think he could be a really good quarterback in the right scenario and in the right situation. But if he comes into Lambeau Field and has I'm not going to go as far to say a Baker Mayfield game, who posted a perfect quarterback rating and threw for almost 400 yards the other week, but like a Tommy DeVito-esque game, maybe a little bit better than DeVito played against the Packers on that Monday Night Football game, he could save his job, I think. So there's a lot of question marks on both sides for this game. The thing besides Jordan Love and the Packers offense that I'm so intrigued to watch is what do they do with the wide receivers, right? Like you have a hot hand in Bo Melton. I imagine he won't see the field a ton because Christian Watson's going to play. Dontavian Wicks might play. And then, of course, you have Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs that need to be on the field. So I'm intrigued to see that. Luke Musgrave might play. Lacerated kidney. He might come back for this Week 18 win and you're in game. Do we see some 2 tight end sets with him and Tucker Kraft? Is his snap count limited? I'm really intrigued to see what happens with some of the skill position players for Green Bay this weekend. But it all goes back to the number one question this year is Jordan Love the guy? And despite the up and down nature of the 2023 season for the Green Bay Packers, you got your answer. Jordan Love's your quarterback. It's not that simple in Chicago, which I think you can take some light in, right? Like, it's not that simple. Justin Fields is not declaratively the guy, or has not been declared the dude for the Chicago Bears long term yet. And that's okay. It's just different. But there's still a lot on the line for them too. Because the Bears have traditionally and specifically recently been owned by the Green Bay Packers. They haven't beaten them in 5 years. Matt LaFleur has never lost to the Chicago Bears. So how nice would it be for Matt Eberflus and Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears to come into Lambeau Field on Sunday, end their season with a win over the Packers, and eliminate them potentially from playoff contention? That'd be a really nice way to end the season for the Bears. I don't think that's what happens. I sure hope that's not what happens. But boy, that's a possibility. And that's what makes me nervous. Because there's a little juice. Not a little. There's a lot of juice, regardless of not being able to make the playoffs for the Chicago Bears. For them, they kind of remind me of the Lions a year ago, right? A team that, and we talked about this with Jim Rutledge on Wednesday, a team that started off slow, turned it around towards the end of the year, and have a lot to look forward to next year, including the number 1 overall pick. So we'll get in more with the Bears in a bit with Courtney Cronin. I'm so intrigued because I do think the Packers win this weekend. I'm so intrigued what next week brings if the Packers win. And I'm not getting ahead of my skis too much, but what are the scenarios? Think about who they could play. 7 seed likely. Could be the 6 seed if the Rams lose to the Niners, but the Niners are going to rest most of their start. They'll probably win, I would think, but we'll see. You could play Detroit, you could play Dallas, or you could play Philly. I don't know who I'd want to see most. I would think Detroit, because you've already seen the Packers win on the road at Detroit in the last month plus, in the last little bit over a month. Thanksgiving Day, they went to Detroit and smoked them. Philly is bad right now. Philly is no bueno. They are in the middle of they've lost 4 of 5. Like they are in trouble entering the playoffs. So do you want debatably a hot Packers team? They'd be on a winning streak. That'd be their 3rd win in the row if they win on Sunday. Do you want the hot Packers or a cold Eagles team? I don't know if I want to go to Philly. But I will just remind you, back in 2010, the Packers were the final team into the NFC playoff field. They were the 6th seed back when only 6 teams made it in each conference. They went on the road in the first round to Philadelphia and won. So if history repeats itself, maybe you want Philly. Dallas is good. Dallas is good. Producer Tiny Hand's the Cowboys fan. They're good.
But they're fine.
But do you trust them hosting the Packers in the playoffs?
No, because the Packers can run the ball. If Aaron Jones is healthy, the Cowboys can't stop the run.
Well, neither can the Packers, so they have that in common.
Yeah, but the Cowboys can't run the ball.
That's true. What happened to Tony Pollard? He had such a good year last year, and he's just fallen off.
Yeah, because he had Zeke to run it between the tackles. They could just use him in spots and design things specifically for him. He's not a guy that can take, just a dive up the middle 8-9 times a game and turn that into a 100-yard rushing game.
Right.
That's not what he is, and they thought he could be. So now they realize that, okay, we're going to have to go and get a running back next year.
So you don't want to see the Packers. Like, if you had to handpick who the Cowboys' first-round opponent is, who are you handpicking? The Rams?
I just have PTSD because of the Packers.
Of course.
So that's my problem. Like, the last time the Rams played the Cowboys in the playoffs, it was in LA at USC Stadium at the Coliseum. Okay. And they just ran all over them, and that was the year they went to the Super Bowl. So it was like, okay, like it was very clear the Rams were going to do that. So I don't want to see the Packers because I also don't like dealing with it. Like, I really don't like it when the Cowboys and Packers play, even when the Cowboys, the few times they've beaten them. As a Cowboys fan in Wisconsin? Yeah, it's just annoying to me.
But, I mean, if there's another team the Packers have traditionally had a lot of success against, it's the Cowboys.
Yes,
right?
Unfortunately.
So I don't hate that matchup. Yeah, so I'd probably go, I'd like to see Detroit 1, Philly 2, Dallas 3, although I think the Packers could win all 3 of those games.
Oh, yeah, they absolutely
I'm getting ahead of my
can.
skis. I'm getting too far. I got to stop. I'm ahead of my skis. All right, I want to introduce something new. We're going to give Hunter the floor prior to our guests coming up every once in a while. Going to call this Tiny Hands Takes.
Yeah, because even though I have tiny hands, I have big brain thoughts.
Okay.
And I've heard a lot of Packer fans saying that this isn't really a rivalry anymore against the Bears. And I heard this too a lot back in the beginning of December with the Marquette, Wisconsin one. We need to stop doing that as sports fans. I think it's really bad. Rivalries are what makes sports awesome. Embrace them and have fun. Revel in the low points of your rivals.
Okay.
And because that means you're at a high point probably. And just have fun with it and ride the roller coaster and don't try and diminish what makes sports so fun.
So you do not like when people claim a rivalry is not a rivalry, is more
Correct.
the point here.
I want as many rivalries as I can. I want to be the Big Ten and just have made-up trophies with every team, so that then there's meaning to every game. Add extra energy to every game you can.
No. Time out. That's watering down rivalries. You don't want to water them down. You want to make them special. So you do not want a quote-unquote rivalry with every Big Ten team. That would water it down. It makes it feel dumb, right? Like, is Wisconsin-Nebraska football actually a rivalry? No, it's not. Should they have a trophy? No. Minnesota is a trophy game. Iowa's a trophy game. Keep it that way when it comes to college football. In the NFL, this rivalry is based on tradition, right? It is the oldest rivalry in the NFL. They've played the most games of any two teams in the NFL. I get that. But it hasn't really been what you expect out of a quote-unquote rivalry. It just hasn't been. It's been all Packers for the last 12, 20 matchups, like for years and we're on decades at this point. It's been all Packers. Is it a rivalry? Yes. Would it make this is Aaron Rodgers, although he said some really dumb stuff this week on the Pat McAfee show, he did make one point about this rivalry, and he said you can't call it a rivalry if you can't beat us. But and he also said this is the Bears Super Bowl, which it is. It's the last game of the season. You have no more season. If the Bears win on Sunday, that is huge for them. Huge.
But you could also say the same thing back in the 70s and 80s when the Packers weren't good.
No. I'm agreeing with you.
So that's where I say this is just, it's highs and lows. There's ebbs and flows to rivalries. Just accept it and say, hey, this is still a rivalry. Let's just have fun and embrace it. I just hate trying to diminish these sorts of rivalries. Maybe I went a little too far with saying we need all these trophy games and that. I got a little out over my skis
big
there.
Brain stuff. Big brain stuff, yeah.
But it's still, just enjoy it, just embrace it and say, hey, you know what? We're kicking the crap out of the Bears right now. I'm just going to have fun with it. It's the same way where the Cowboys in Washington, Cowboys have kind of owned them in the last decade. And I own it, and I trash talk Washington fans. That's just what you do.
I'm with you on that. All right, let's do this. I think it's a good take, Hunter, by the way. I'm gonna grade these takes from now on.
Okay.
I will give you a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay, I'll take that. That's like a C+.
Tiny Hands takes. Yeah. I wouldn't look at it like that because like a 1 out of 10 is an F. A 2 out of 10 probably also an F. But like a C is probably like a 3, 4, or D is probably 3, 4.
Okay.
You're probably like a B. 75 is good. 75 out of 100. 7.5 out of 10. All right, let's do this. We're going to take a break. Going to tell you about Green Bay Game Day. Coming up next, Courtney Cronin, ESPN, Bears reporter, ESPN radio host, joins us. Next, it's Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf. We'll chat with ESPN Bears reporter Courtney Cronin coming up next. But first, got to tell you about Green Bay Game Day coming up on Sunday ahead of Packers-Bears. Week 18, win and you're in. Again, for the Green Bay Packers coming up this Sunday. Join me, Kyle Wallace, Torey Lowe, Jason Wilde, Rob Domofsky from the shadow of Lambeau Field beginning at noon on Sunday. You can catch us on 620 WTMJ, 94.5 ESPN Milwaukee, 100.5 ESPN in Madison. Justin Field says there's nothing to do in Green Bay. We'll talk about that. Jordan Love, he's the guy. What could he show in the spotlight on Sunday? We'll get into that and a whole lot more. It's Green Bay Game Day beginning at noon on those stations as well as the ESPN Milwaukee and ESPN Madison YouTube channels. Coming up this Sunday, don't miss it. It's Green Bay Game Day. Let's chat with Courtney Cronin. Yeah, rolling on. It's Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf. Excited to be joined now by ESPN Bears reporter for ESPN and ESPN.com. You can hear her on ESPN radio all the time as well. It's a great Courtney Cronin joining us now. Courtney, appreciate the time. How are you?
I'm great, Alex. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Appreciate you taking some time to break this thing down for me. Let's just start with this. Where's the juice at in the building for the Chicago Bears this week? Obviously, no playoffs for them, but they could theoretically end the Packers season in the oldest rivalry in the NFL. What's the juice like in the building?
I think it's pretty high, and I know that Matt Eberflus has been adamant that they're focused on themselves first and foremost. It's not about the rivalry as much as fans want to play that up, but that's kind of hard to believe knowing the magnitude of this rivalry for those inside the building, not just this coaching staff, but the McCaskey family, people who have been around for decades with this team. And to get their first win against their oldest rival, their most heated rival, would actually, be their first one since 2018. It might actually feel that they can build something here at the end of the season when they've won 5 of their last 6 games. Ending on a high note while beating your rival, that's a pretty nice way to go into the offseason. So there certainly may not be playoff implications on the line for this Bears team, but there's a lot when it comes to the direction this team continues to head in towards the offseason.
Yeah, that's really well said. And there's some parallels to draw to the Detroit Lions of last year, right? Kind of a rough start to the season for them. They end the Packers season in Week 18, and here they are winning the NFC North for the first time since it was the NFC Central in the 90s. So there are certainly some parallels to draw. When you look at Justin Fields, obviously, you and Jeremy Fowler, great piece earlier this week on ESPN.com, kind of talking about the conundrum that is the Justin Fields scenario. You have the number 1 pick. Caleb Williams is right there. Justin Fields starting to play well at the end of the year. Bring me into what the heck's going on down there. We know his teammates love him. It's just he hasn't been terribly consistent on the field. It's a really tricky scenario going on with what to do with Justin Fields.
It is, and that's the thing. Like, it's not clear cut what they're going to do one way or the other. There's no way to look at this and say, okay, the arrow points them this direction or the arrow points them that direction. It's a conundrum, and that's the only way I know how to describe it, because when I talk to people inside this organization, you get a lot of people who, when you ask them, what do you do with Justin Fields? What do you do with the number 1 overall pick? The answer is not it's not a 10-second answer of we're doing this. It's you got to consider this factor, the way Fields played the last 7 games of the season, what it means for the franchise to finally feel like it's heading in the right direction at the quarterback position, what the number 1 pick could yield. So if we can't succinctly describe this in a soundbite answer, then that shows you the difficulty that this organization is going to have to go through as they try to come to a consensus on this the next couple of months, and they've got a lot to weigh. Certainly Fields has played well the last couple of weeks since he came back from the thumb injury, but that doesn't tell the story of all 37 starts that he's had as an NFL quarterback. And I had one general manager from a different team tell me this week that if there's this much non-clarity on the quarterback through 37 starts, then you actually do have clarity that it might be time to move on, because if you don't have a rock-solid answer 3 years in, some will look at that and say they have an answer, that it is time to use that draft pick that you got not via your own record, which is something they can put a feather in their cap on, that the way that Carolina trade played out, but also what this could mean to set the team up to be an instant playoff contender next year. Like, if you bring a young quarterback in here, then you have a good offensive line, you have a good running game, you have a good defense, and also you have DJ Moore on offense. You can still add. Like, that's a much more advantageous situation to bring a quarterback into, which is why it's not a cut and dry argument on keep Fields or move on and get somebody else, because there's so many factors to consider here, and this will be the topic of the offseason, no matter whether it's January or March, until they either do something with that pick or double down and keep Justin Fields. Like, this is going to be a very interesting situation to watch as Ryan Poles and the team tries to navigate it.
Yeah, such a good answer from Courtney Cronin, ESPN Bears reporter with us here on Mr. Irrelevant. You're so right, Courtney. It is a fascinating scenario, and I like your nugget there from an NFL GM. Like, you might have an answer, right? It's been 3 years. If you're not totally certain he is the dude, he's probably not the dude, right? And you have the opportunity of a lifetime with the number one pick again this year. That DJ Moore trade worked out perfectly for the Bears. Justin Fields also making some noise this week here in Wisconsin, Courtney, as he says there's not a lot to do in Green Bay other than watch football. You've covered the NFC North for several years now. How have your trips been to Green Bay, Courtney Cronin?
I like going to Green Bay. It's football Americana. You can walk through someone's front yard to get to the stadium. There's no other place like it. The closest thing is Buffalo. And I look at the Green Bay game day environment, and for the Bears, look, I just got done with the press conference. Kevin Warren, the team president and CEO, donated $1 million today to Lurie Children's Hospital in Chicago, and we were just catching up afterwards ahead of this game and talking about going up there. And of course, the Bears are trying to build their own stadium, and they'll never get an environment because of where we are here in Chicago, in the Chicagoland area. But it's such a, you can't compare it to anything else. And I don't think Justin meant anything critical by that comment. Of course, it's going to ruffle some feathers up in Green Bay, but in a way, he's right. I mean, that town bleeds green and gold. It's such a football haven, and I can only imagine what this environment we're all going to be walking into on Sunday afternoon is going to feel like. And for this Bears team, that's a big way to measure the growth of this group. Can you rise to the occasion, play as close to flawless football as you can when you're going to have the world beating down on you inside of 70,000 people inside Lambeau Field on Sunday afternoon? It's not going to be a friendly environment for the visitors, but if you could play good football under those conditions, that shows you that this team has grown even a step further than where they were even a couple weeks ago, and certainly where they were from when they played Green Bay week 1.
It's really well said. I should have prefaced that with I am a Green Bay native and I don't live there anymore. So, I mean, clearly, not a ton to keep me entertained, but great city nonetheless. Last thing for you, Courtney. I saw your reaction the other week to the Jair Alexander coin toss chaos, the most immature and silly thing I've ever seen an NFL player do. He's suspended last week, maybe back this week. We will see. But I thought your reaction was priceless. Do you still feel like that's as insane as you thought it was 2 weeks ago?
I just don't understand the logic behind it. And he sounded so aloof after it. It doesn't make sense for somebody who's the highest paid cornerback in the NFL to come across like that. And we talked to Matt Schneidman from The Athletic on my podcast yesterday. I don't know what went wrong this year with Jair Alexander, and I don't know where to point to it. Obviously, I'm not there every day, but you see the injury reports. You saw from week 11 through 15, he's limited, but he's not playing. It's what the hell's going on? So I don't know. It's a weird situation, and it's not like that it's not like they're going to move him next year. A, why would they? Because he's a talented player. B, he's under contract for a couple more years. It doesn't make sense why this whole thing is playing out the way that it is. I know he's back with the team this week, and they can only hope that he'll play well trying to cover DJ Moore, but it's weird. It's a weird situation.
So weird.
I honestly, I'm starting to feel like this stems from going back to that game week 1 last year where he wanted to shadow Justin Jefferson. They wouldn't let him, and we saw what happened when the Vikings wreaked havoc on the Packers secondary week 1 of the 2022 season. I feel like he felt undercut, and this is his way of acting out, which is certainly comes across that way. All these months later, it's probably been building, and as we heard from Matt LaFleur, the suspension was not just one incident. There was clearly a buildup here, and that ultimately, which could have cost them a possession, was the straw that broke the camel's back in that direction.
Yeah, and there's certainly a case to make that Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator, may have lost the locker room, right? So there's plenty. As you have the Justin Fields conundrum going on, we have the curious case of Jair Alexander all season to cover. Courtney, great stuff. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Take care.
That's the great Courtney Cronin. You can get her on Twitter at Courtney R. Cronin, covering the Bears and doing a ton for us on ESPN Radio. She's terrific. I really appreciated her insights on all things Chicago Bears there. All right, as we wrap up the week and we wrap up the show, as we always do, we end with what Strouf learned. And I got to be honest with you. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot this week. Learned a lot. That's not true. I've not learned much this week. I've learned that New Year's resolutions are really stupid. I did not make one. Hunter, are you a New Year's resolution guy? It wouldn't shock me if you are.
No, I'm not. Usually, like most places I've ever been, as far as work and that, there's usually some sort of a new theme to the year.
Yeah.
So I kind of maybe try to like adapt that to my own life a little bit, just to help like do that as well through my work and life. But other than that, no, not really.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't understand like the idea behind them. And what I mean by that is like, it's not going to last 12 months. And I hope it does, right? If you have a New Year's resolution, I hope it works. And I hope it goes great for you, and I hope you accomplish everything you want to accomplish. But it's just like I don't work out. I don't go to the gym. I'm not going to sit here and act like I work out. But I know this is the week where because I'm seeing stuff on social media where gyms are like overpacked. And in 2 weeks, they'll be back to what they were at the end of December. So what are we doing here? We're throwing, we're trying to better ourselves. I get that, and I'm down with that always. But we're not going to stick to it. You don't need a new month to implement an initiative that you want to accomplish, right? Like, that's not how that works. So anyway, I've also realized that holiday parties are fun. We had a good ESPN Madison holiday party last night.
Yeah, you had a good time.
Always have a good time. Badgers women's basketball against Nebraska. Tough loss.
Yeah.
The under of the over-under. But no, it was a good time. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's always fun to just have everybody in somewhere other than work together.
Right.
Because like this is a fun office, but it's even better when we're out of the office and it's all of us together just having a good time.
Especially when food and beverages are free, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. So happy holidays. We did it a lot. Like I'm impressed by us though, because I don't schedule this, right? I'm not a schedule guy.
The
only thing I schedule are interviews for this show. That's it, right? But other than that, I don't schedule stuff. But I'm impressed by the way we have gotten better year over year. So I just celebrated 3 years with ESPN Madison and Good Karma Brands. Happy anniversary to me. And year one, the holiday party was in March, right? It was like
nice.
It was like March 5th. It was 3 months late. And then last year we did it earlier. We did it December 30th. But it's a holiday week. Like, yeah, it's kind of a gray area. Not a good time to have a holiday party. I think we nailed it this year. January 4th. The first weekend of January, first Thursday or Friday of January, we nailed it. So whoever scheduled this, props to you. I don't actually know who did it.
I'm pretty sure that was Lainey, our team ambassador.
Okay. So I will give her credit as soon as we wrap up then. But we've gotten better, so I'm proud of us. And I think we nailed it this year. So I'm excited to see what year 4 holds.
Well, it's perfect because then it breaks up this first week back after a holiday. It just makes it a little bit easier getting through the week then, because this is always, I swear, this is the worst work week of the year.
Oh, I don't agree with that.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that.
This one's bad.
No,
because it's hard to get back into that rhythm. You've had like 2 weeks.
That part's fair, but I would say like week after Memorial Day, that's a short week too. This week happened to be too. Week after 4th of July.
But those are all, you only have the single holiday there. This one you had Christmas, and then you get a short week again with New Year's.
True.
And you're not really fully locked in that week in between there. So
you know what the hell you're talking about, Hunter. I got to give you that.
Every now and again.
Occasionally you know what the hell you're talking about, so I'll give you that on that. All right, we'll wrap up the quick one today with this. Hunter, I start with you. Packers, Bears, give me a score prediction.
I'm going to go 21-17 Chicago.
Really?
Yep, I think.
Wow.
I think it's going to. Kyle Brust and Nortman talked about this yesterday on their show about would you rather have the defense out there or the offense out there late to get a score for the game. You do want the lead. And unfortunately, I think this is what is going to fully fire Joe Barry. I think Justin Fields is going to go down the field. And this is also probably a little bit of me. Again, I mentioned Cowboys PTSD. I just think in general, NFL PTSD of the Packers always getting a late score.
You're trying to avoid the inevitable by giving an insincere prediction.
No, I genuinely
think the Packers win.
I genuinely think that the Bears win.
Okay.
I'm just saying that I'm also putting a little bit of my hopes in there just because I do revel in Packer fan pain.
Yeah, Monday will be rough if we lose. I'm telling you. This show is going to be rough if we lose.
It'll be such a good
never
dynamic.
say we. I just said we for the first. This is how deep I am right now, right? We always talk about how nobody rides the roller coaster quite like Alex Strouf. I just referred to me as a part of the Green Bay Packers. I just referred to myself as a part of the team.
And I hate that so much.
I do too. It's one of my pet peeves. But I just did it, right? Like, that's how deep I am in this roller coaster. We're going up, but we might come down real fast if they lose on Sunday. By the way, you have the under, 45.5 the over-under. Packers favored by 3, so obviously the Bears covering the spread there and really outright if you take them on the money line. I think the Packers win. I think the Packers cover. I think the over hits. I will take the Packers 27-21, so barely hits. It'd be 48 points. I think it's going to be weird. I think it's going to be a game that the Bears are always in, and it's too close for comfort. And I think we're going to see the result of the poll that you just referenced from Kyle Brust and Nortman. I think the Packers will have the lead. The defense will be on the field, and we'll see what happens. In my prediction, I say they get it done. I just don't expect an ass-whooping like you saw last week against Minnesota. And maybe like you saw, you could make the case for on Thanksgiving against Detroit. I don't think, in week 1 against Chicago, right, the bookended schedule for the Bears and the Packers, I just don't think you see what you saw week 1. I think the Bears stay in it. I think they're alive. I just think the home field ultimately gives the Packers the advantage. I think they win 27-21.
If the Packers blow out the Bears on Sunday,
yeah,
I'm going to tell you right now, for you as a Packer fan, start making some travel plans for the weekend of January 20th or 21st. That's NFC Championship weekend. If they can blow out the Bears in a win-or-go-home game, I think they're going to the NFC Championship game.
Wow. Well, they'd have to go through San Francisco. Let's keep that in mind in the divisional round.
There is still a chance that they can get the 6th seed, though, and then they wouldn't have to potentially.
You need the 7th seed to win, though. So you're going through San Francisco.
Probably, but I think they're that good that you should maybe think about
plans. I would say for the sake of what we would like to see in the NFC playoffs, just real quick. 1 seed is the 49ers. We know that. For the sake of what we want to see, you would want Cowboys as the 2 seed, Lions as the 3 seed, whoever wins the NFC South as the 4 seed. Who's the 5 seed right now? It'd be the Eagles. And then Packers 6 seed, Rams 7 seed. Ideally, what you want to see then is Rams beat the Cowboys,
which is very possible.
I agree. And then Packers beat the Lions again, right? So you have the NFC North tie. So you have the Packers moving on and the Rams moving on. So then you don't have to go through San Francisco. And then it's Rams 49ers, third time they've matched up this year. And then you have the Packers likely taking on, who would that be, the Eagles?
Yeah.
Probably. So you'd have all the underdogs. It'd be 1, 5, 6, 7. That's my dream scenario. You have 1, 5, 6, 7 left in the NFC playoffs divisional round.
And with the way the NFC has been this year, I think it's absolutely possible.
I totally agree. The only good team is the 49ers.
Yep.
There's only really 2 or 3 good teams in the NFL in my mind, right? Like the Ravens are clearly the best team in the NFL. The Niners are probably second, and the Ravens smoked them the other week. And then who am I forgetting about in the AFC?
Well, and then I think
Browns are good.
Yeah, I think it's honestly a tie between the Browns, the Dolphins, and then I think that's where the Cowboys slide in.
Above the Chiefs?
Yeah, because the Chiefs just can't throw the ball.
I'm just asking. Yeah, no. What a fun weekend of football we got ahead, man. I am so jacked up to watch a ton of football this weekend. Week 18 in the NFL, a lot of big games. Enjoy the weekend of football. Remember, we're with you before the game on Green Bay Game Day, and my teammates Gabe Neitzel, Homer, Mark Tauscher, Jason Wilde with you after the game on Green Bay Game Night. We're back with you 12:30 on Monday. I haven't booked a guest. I don't think I'm going to. This is such a big game. I think we can just hash it out together. I think we're going to go guestless on Monday. This is the first I'm telling you this, Hunter. But I just want an open forum. If you watch us on the video stream, you see on the right side of the screen we have a rundown. You could probably just go ahead and chalk that up as blank on Monday. We need nothing on there. Just leave it empty, right? We know what I have to say. I'm gonna spew a lot of garbage, right? Hunter's already getting prepared for Monday. He's getting rid of everything. That's what the show should look like on Monday. I don't need anything. I don't need notes. We're just gonna come in here and talk for an hour about whatever happens. Win, loss, tie. We're talking about whatever on Monday. I'm looking forward to that. I will either be completely insufferable positively or I will be completely insufferable negatively. Like, I'm going to think it's the end of the world if the Packers lose on Sunday. For the second straight year in the same scenario, that would kill me. Can't wait to talk to you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the football. This has been Mr. Relevant. Big thanks to Courtney Cronin. Big thanks to Hunter Vaughn. I'm Alex Strouf. Thanks for hanging with us. We'll talk to you on Monday. Peace.